Welcome back to Gooner Fanzine TV. Completely honoured as ever to have our Gooner Fanzine star columnist Lee Dixon, all-round top man and Arsenal legend, to have a bit of a chat about all things Arsenal. We're actually filming on the day that Lee signed 32 years ago for Arsenal, so we're going to have a bit of chat about that first, because there's been loads of stuff on Twitter, and obviously we've got a lot of memories too. I was at Lee's debut against Luton Town in February, but what can you remember of signing for the Arsenal to start with, Lee?
Well, firstly, I didn't know it was the anniversary today, and woke up this morning and my mate sent me a text going, "Oh, well done," and I thought, "Oh, what have I done? I've done something wrong." So you're all over Twitter, and I was like, "Oh God, what have I done?" So racked my brains, and I can't remember going out last night. So I had a quick look, and then obviously it all came up on the timeline and stuff. So yeah, it brought back a lot of memories actually, because 32 years ago, it was probably the best day, certainly the best professional day of my life. And we talk about games and your best game, your best opponent, and obviously 89 and Anfield and all that lot. But without that pen on the piece of paper and actually scribbling your name at the bottom and signing, none of that happens. So it pivotal in my career at the time. Big sort of worrying moments as I was signing. Am I up to the job, and will I be able to get in the first team? Lots of huge international footballers knocking about the place, and there's, me from Manchester who played at the lower leagues. How am I going to, get to that level? So all of that was quite scary. It was quite a scary day, but an exciting scary, if that makes any sense. And thankfully, I did settle down reasonably quickly, and bought into the work ethic and the ideas that George had about defending, because it was probably one of my weaknesses, being a defender at the time. I was definitely better going forward than defending. So, he said to me he was going to teach me, and I think he did a good job.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, the official Arsenal Twitter account tweeted that out today to their sort of 15 million followers. You did a really lovely, humble tweet as well.
15 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
So everyone knows Lee Dixon these days. And obviously, I mean, we were sort of chatting off air, but you've got a memento of the day, your debut on your house,
against Luton Town, and we're just trying to remember the date, and it's completely gone out of my mind, so I'll have to Google that. But some guy sort of had a ticket from that game, Luton Town, and said to me, do I want the ticket stub? And I was like, because obviously I haven't got a ticket. I think, my dad was there, but they were kind of on players' tickets, so I'm pretty sure he hasn't kept his. But it's brilliant to have it. It was, it's an old Arsenal ticket. Anyone who's been going all these years will know what they look like. And thankfully, he sent it to me in the post. I sent him a picture back, and I've got it framed in. I don't have a lot of stuff up in my house. It's not, there's not medals lying around and shirts on the wall and all that lot. I kind of, they're all safely tucked away. But I'm not one for sort of having that sort of stuff about. But that one is pretty poignant. As I said, nothing happened if I hadn't signed, and making your debut for the Arsenal was kind of, it kind of resonates as one of those days you want to remember.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just on your medals, I've got to ask, as a fan, what do you do with your medals? Do you lock them away, do you? Or?
Well, if I told you that...
No,
well, put it this way, they're not on view, they're locked away, they're not even at my house. So, again, I think there might be a Charity Shield one in the loft somewhere, because, back in those days, we don't count that as a trophy, unlike Mourinho or whoever else. Yeah. But I think there's one of them knocking about, and an ice skating trophy from when I was at school or something like that. So I'm not big on that stuff. I mean, every now and again I'll go to where they are and get them out and just have a look at them. But it's not, the memory up there is more than anything. So they're not lying around.
Absolutely. Just before we move on, I've got an ice skating trophy. What was that about?
That was the first thing that came into my head. So that's a lie.
I was going to say
there was some sort of trophy at school. I can't remember what it was. It was probably cricket or something.
Right.
I don't know why I said ice skating. Do you know why I said ice skating? I do know because I thought of David Seaman, randomly popped into my head, and he's got trophies for ice.
Dancing on ice,
dancing on ice, and all that. Like, he's a really good skater, and I'm useless, so I wouldn't have won anything at ice skating. So why I said ice skating? So there'll be probably more lies in this podcast as we go along.
Probably, yeah. So no plans for dancing on ice for next season.
Absolutely not. You see my knee? I can't even play golf without limping. No.
Excellent. Just in terms of, you touched on character there as well. I was at the Chelsea game, the 2-2.
Yeah.
If you look at it from the outside, you'll just go, yeah, Arsenal won it, got a point, basically. But what was so good about that performance and what made the fans so excited was the character shown and the grit. Because you don't always associate that with Arsenal sides over the last few years. Certainly as a fan, watching them in the away end and at the Emirates and stuff. What did you make of that, Chelsea game?
I was working the game. I was NBC, and I was, I had my microphone, and I was... I'm not talking all the time because I'm co-com, and Graham Lasso was doing it with me as well. So
Graham Lasso?
Yeah, we worked together at NBC, so he was kind of there.
Any sort of chat about the sending off?
Yeah, no, we've NBC did a big thing on it before the game, showing all these my tackles and his tackles on each other, and I have to say mine were less violent.
Was that game? It was 0-0. You got sent off, didn't you?
I know, I did, yeah. And I desperately tried to break his thumb when he shook my hand when I got sucked off, because he had a bandage on his thumb, and I went, "Oh, fair play." And if I'd have got hold of his thumb, I was literally going to rip it off. But he kept going like that. He wouldn't give it to me. So, but we have a laugh about that. Yeah. He did suck me in onto the tackle, and I let myself down. The only reason I let myself down was because I actually missed him. I would have more than happily took his ankle, but I missed him. So yeah, we had a laugh about that. But we were doing the game, and the fans were just down to my left, and you could see them all at the front even before. The goal went in, the equaliser. The fact that they showed as much fight as they did was, as you said, it's something that should be a given. But the teams and a couple of the squads of recent years have not necessarily had that. So it's becoming it's becoming something that's it's a bit of a thing now. That was never a thing when I was playing, because it was always there anyway. So, but. I'm not taking anything away. They seem to be coming back a little bit, so that was great. And and I shared in the fist pumping when the second goal went in. So very unprofessional, but there was no camera on me. I put my microphone down.
What did you say to Graham Lasso afterwards?
Well, he was disappointed because he obviously wants Chelsea to win, and but it was kind of from a fight. It was a difficult game to. It's a difficult game to analyse. If it had stayed 11v11, at the point when he got sent off, we weren't particularly doing brilliant. We'd had a couple of little breaks, but Chelsea had a lot of the ball. It could have gone, he could have gone on and got beat 3-0. You don't know, but we could have won as well. So as soon as the sending off come, we kind of the game's in a completely different place to analyse. It's like difficult to work that out. But the one thing that stood out a mile, as you said, was that not giving in and that fighting for the cannon on your chest. So that was good. Absolutely.
I've got to ask, I've had this sort of conversation with a few of the boys as well, and other fans too. Who would you have blamed for the goal as a defender, in terms of the penalty, the sending off, as a defender and as a pundit? Because I was sort of having this conversation saying it was Mustafi sort of error that basically meant that David Luiz was in a no-win situation.
Yeah, no, obviously you can't not. It was just one of those things from Mustafi's point of view. It's kind of, without slagging him off too much because he's injured, it's kind of what he's about. He's got that in him. He's got that mistake in him. Yeah. Didn't sort his feet out a bit. He should know the bounce of the ball and how it's come in, and whether you've got the angle to get enough on it to get back to the keeper. And as the ball was bouncing, he started to. It just looked as if he was going to half hit it. It's just the way his body was. So, but and then after that, Luis has not got. He hasn't got much options. He's playing catch up. He's behind the guy, he's away. You do everything in your power at that point to try and stop him scoring. Yeah. And people say you should have let him score. In a million years, I would never have let him score. Yeah. I cannot let someone score and then I'll let him score and we stay 11v11. That doesn't sit with me, because at that moment in time, those things are not going through your mind. You're not going, do you know what, should I just... No, I won't make that. It's like this. Yeah. It's happening so quick. and you see the goal, and you go, "I will do everything. I'll do anything." And I'm shouting at him. I'm just shouting, "Miss it!" I'm trying to throw something at him, but I haven't got anything in my hands. I'm trying to trip him up. I'm just behind him. I can't quite, knowing probably, or you're not really thinking that you're going to get sent off. You're just trying everything to stop him scoring. So there's no real blame for me from Luis, and either way, if he'd have let him score, I'd have been more angry with him. I'd have gone, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
The goal is the most important thing.
Yeah.
We could stop the goal, and then if you can stop the goal, and then put everybody behind the ball and get a 0-0. But don't let him score. You cannot let him do that.
Yeah, absolutely. As one sort of right back to another who scored Arsenal's.
You right
No, I was a goalkeeper. My nickname was Flying Potato when I was a goalkeeper. But no, just in terms of Hector Bellerin, basically. Obviously popped up with a late equaliser.
Yeah.
Firstly, what was your take on that goal? Because Frank Lampard afterwards called it a soft goal, which I thought was slightly unfair on Bellerin, although you're cutting in and the curler wasn't the strongest.
Right. Well, let's get it right. It's Hector cutting in on his left swinger. We've given too much space because they backed off him. Abraham had a bit of a knock. He was limping around. He got in the way, and they give him too much space to get his swinger going. He's hit it with his left foot, and it's kind of bent round. And I honestly thought, if my keeper lets that in, if Dave Seaman's lets that in, I'm going, "Dave, what are you doing?"
Okay, yeah.
So I see where Frank's saying soft goal. I wouldn't have been if I'd have been playing for Chelsea. Then I would have definitely been roasting someone and saying that you cannot let him do that, because the thing is, if you know your players. So Hector's there. I'm showing him on his left foot and going, "Hit it, shoot." I would have been doing that, but a bit closer to try and block it. And then if he'd have got it past me, I'd have gone, "You can't score from there past Dave Seaman with your swinging foot.
Yeah.
It's not happening." And then it did happen. So I get it. But what really pleased me about that goal was, I know he went up a little bit in my estimations. Not that, I'm a big fan of his anyway, and a bit critical because he's a right back. But with Hector, I loved his celebration, because it was a moment where he could have gone over to the fans and jumped into the crowd, because there was 3 or 4 of them there anyway, and got involved.
Yeah.
And because there's every reason for him to do that. Long-term injury, back in the team, swinging left foot. He could have really got carried away with that, but he didn't. He kind of went to run over, and then he bent his run. I don't know who it was, came over and he high-fived somebody, but it was like he was switched on for the kickoff, and it really, really sort of. I thought that's I like that, because I was celebrating, but I purposely looked at him to see what he was going to do, and I'm really feathering his cap for that, because he was switched on, capped him, bang, get back, make sure it stays 2-2, and he sort of said a few things to people on the way back, so I really it's a top marks for that moment.
Excellent, that's really interesting to hear. Just another one on Hector Bellerin. If he stays at Arsenal long term, he's got to be considered as a future Arsenal captain, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he talks well. I'll say he talks well. Talks well-ish. He's a bit soundbitey for me. I'd like him to be a bit, but I'm always ultra critical. I think everybody's a bloody media trained, and and I have to remember that these, I forget my age sometimes. I am actually quite old, and these kids, they're kids. They're coming through the game. They're learning it like I was. When I think where he is, how he speaks to the media now. When I was his age, I couldn't string a sentence together. So I have to step back a little bit. He's got that leadership qualities, no doubt about that. And I think hopefully he stays fit. I'd love to see him have a really long, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons on the trot without getting any injuries, and really see him develop as a top quality fullback. Because I do think he's got all the attributes. He's certainly, his speed has slowed a little bit with his injuries, but his awareness defensively can be improved. But he's definitely got everything in the package to be and he's got my shirt on, so I want him to do well.
Fantastic. Talking about talented teenagers, obviously Gabriel Martinelli against Chelsea scored a superb goal, and just his overall play was really impressive, I thought. What was your take on him?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's a big fan of his, and quite rightly so. He's got, he's kind of took that position by the scruff of the neck and forced the issue with his new coach and said, I'm going to play, and he's showing maturity beyond his years. He's got the cocky celebration standing there because apparently he was, he stood there in front of the Chelsea fans because he saw a fan doing the same thing. Yeah. So he was kind of like mimicking that. I love all that, and there's a real confidence about him, and he seems to be. Again, I'm thinking all the time about the construction of the team, and I'm going. He's thinking about his relationship with Saka, and everyone's going on about that. And I'm going, then I step into sort of pundit mode and go, it's a bit of a flash in the pan. Saka's got to learn the defensive side of things, but the way that they're playing at the moment with Xhaka going into that sort of left-sided centre back, left back position, and allowing Saka to go forward, it suits him. What worries me about that is right now is fine because we're not playing the better teams, because as soon as he goes to that left back area and he runs down the left wing, we're basically left one player in midfield. So that's something I'm sure that Mikel is doing it because he feels safe in doing it at the moment, but against the better teams, that'll be something to keep your eye on, whether he still keeps going to that left side and vacating the middle of the park, because whether it be Torreira or Guendouzi, who's been in there on his own against Bournemouth, I mean, me and you could have played in midfield and gone for a cup of tea and come back and nothing would have happened. They were terrible, but so yeah, that's something to keep your eye on, but that left side partnership at the moment is really looking good. Yeah.
And we'll touch on Bournemouth in a second, but that's really interesting you're talking about Xhaka, because for the Sheffield United game, I was sort of studying him at one stage, and he dropped back when Louise pushed forward with the ball. So it was almost like he was playing as a left centre-half in a back line of four, and he obviously used that experience to play in that position against Chelsea for most of the game. But did you notice that? I mean, what was your take on that?
No, but they've been doing it for a while. It's kind of like something that, obviously, in order to just move the microphone, in order to free the left back, and it becomes at times it can become a 3 at the back, it can become a 4 at the back, but Xhaka's definitely in that role of and he's comfortable at it, just dropping into a semi left back position and freeing up that run forward. And as you said, it helped when he had to go back and play centre half. I thought he played really well when he went back there, and he's been revitalised, and all the nonsense has stopped about him for now, and it looks like it's he's part of the future at the moment. Not sure he's the long term view of our midfield at the moment, but that remains to be seen. And again, summertime is probably the time when we'll get a bit more of a look at what he's thinking in that midfield area, because we just need a bit of creativity for me at the moment, but let's see. Yeah.
I won't put you on the spot about Xhaka's sort of histrionics against Palace earlier in the season, but what would George Graham have made of that if he had been his player?
Well, he wouldn't have done it.
Yeah,
simple as that. He wouldn't have done it in the first place. So the discipline and the what's expected of you is in you before you go on. That's not to say that we didn't do anything wrong on the pitch, obviously, but there's a way of dealing with situations, and the behaviour that we all saw, whether you agree with him or not or whatever, you're just not allowed to. You weren't allowed to behave like that. So, and if you did, for instance, if he did do something like that, he would, it all come down on like a ton of bricks on him, and George would have made sure that he was under no illusion to do that again. Yeah. So, and similar to Ozil, nobody likes to be brought off and all that. Like, I get all that, but there's a way of dealing with stuff like that, and that's something that was part of the club when I was playing, and it's over the years, whether it's the introduction of the foreign players more and more and more, but there's definitely a diluted effect on things like that, which maybe Mikel will tap into a little bit and kind of put his foot down a little bit, because he understands the club. He was there long enough to get it, I'm pretty sure, and he's obviously been around lots of really good coaches, and certainly Pep's discipline. He doesn't look like you get away with much with Pep, so I'm pretty sure that's something that's on his agenda.
Just out of interest, I mean, you touched on Ozil there. Do you think he's got a long-term future at Arsenal? Just in terms of the way he's
got
playing.
a long-term contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can he get the best out of him? I don't know.
Yeah,
is the answer. I don't know about him anymore. Just when you think you've worked him out, then Sheffield United, he could have been sat in the box with me and Dave Seaman, and I would have got a better mark in the paper than he did.
Yeah.
He was like, come on, So I don't know. If I was a betting man, I'd probably doubt it. When you say long term, I mean, his contract's, when's his contract
18
up?
months.
He's got 18 months, so you mean longer than that? Will he get another contract? I doubt it very much, because they're not going to give him that money.
Yeah.
And that means, he's not going to get that money anywhere he goes at this stage in his career. So I don't know. I've given up trying to work him out, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Just one more, George Graham. What would George Graham done with Mesut Ozil?
I'm trying to liken him to somebody who was probably Merce was the closest. The Merce had that sort of maverick type attitude about him, and Merce didn't mess around with him. So, oh God, I don't know what. In fact, I saw George not that long ago. Next time I see him, I'm going to ask him.
Brilliant.
I said, what would you have done with him? I think the Christmas fine box would have been full.
I bet. Absolutely. Obviously, you touched on Saka there as a fellow fullback, with Saka playing on the left, obviously. What have you made of him so far this season?
Well, he's done. There's no doubt about it. He's done remarkably well. He's an athlete. He kind of. It suits him to be the role he's playing at the moment, because he's got some safety behind him with, as I said, with Xhaka going into that role, and the relationship with Martinelli looks good. So everything's going for him. Stick him in a back four for 2 or 3 weeks when they've got games against teams that he's not going to get out the back four. Then that'll be a test for him, because he's naturally not thinking about the danger that you can be in around your own box. So things like that. But I'm not. It's not for me to criticise him as a left back based on the fact that he's not naturally a left back, but he will learn it, because he seems like an intelligent boy, and he's done brilliantly well. But the role suits him right now. So is he important enough in the team to set the team up to accommodate that? At the moment, it seems he is. So that's great. If he says, if Arteta's looking at it and goes, look, I want this protection, you've got to go there. You've got to go to that left back role, Xhaka, and let him go, because it suits. He gets in all the time, because it's quite difficult, because he starts off. He's not a wing back. Yeah. He's starting as a left back, so he's kind of out of the right back's vision and thoughts as the opposite right back. So he's kind of like he's got other people to contend with, so he can get. And then because he then sort of wanders up, and then Xhaka goes in, and he can go and come back as he likes. Yeah. He's utilising that brilliantly, and we're getting the balls out to him. We're hitting that crossfield ball, and he looks like he's delivering. He's got his crossing's good. So yeah, keep it going. But there'll be times where he goes, and the fact that we haven't got a natural left back fit at the moment is he's taking full advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to add on, a player who sort of started his Arsenal career further forward on the left flank, Ashley Cole. Do you see any similarities? I know a lot of fans are sort of making the initial comparison without.
Well, to be Ash couldn't defend to save his life when he first went back to left back. So if there's, he's probably better defender than Ash is. Ash was. Ash won't like me saying that. But when you think what Ashley Cole turned into, and whether you're an Ashley Cole fan or not, and that, I don't see how, as an Arsenal fan, you can't be, because he was brilliant for us. But I know I understand the politics with it and how we left and all that. But that's just rubbish and nonsense. You know, you just as a player, he turned into from a very athletic, not knowing the game young lad left back, turned into the world's best left back. Without the period of his career when he was at his peak, he was the best in the world. So that is, you know, that's a learning curve like that. You know, from where he started off with Tony Adams, got him on a piece of string, pulling him back and releasing him, and then towing him back into position and telling him when to go and stopping him. And you know, Ash was a quick learner. He listened to Tony, and it made him into what he was. So if there's unfortunately for Saka, there's not Tony Adams playing alongside him, but he's got to learn. He'll learn from his coach, and he'll learn from there will be individual coaching going on with him. There has to be, because he doesn't understand certain aspects of being a fullback. So you know, I haven't had the phone call yet, but you never know. No, I'm kidding. So he's got to learn off his centre half, and there's another issue there. Is Luis a teacher? Is he somebody that you would learn how to defend from? I don't know him as a person. I only know from what I see. And I'm sure he seems vocal enough, but he's kind of like, we've seen him make enough mistakes and then be in bad positions to think, well, is he learning from one of the best defensively? There's no doubt about him on the ball. So there's lots of little things going to go on in Saka's next part of his career if he's going to be turned into a left back. You know, there's a lot of work to be done there. But at the moment, just, you know, as a sort of half wing back, half full back, he's doing a brilliant job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just on Ashley Cole, as a fan's point of view, from a fan's point of view, I thought you're right. He was the best left back in the world. I was at that England-France game in 2004 in Euros, and he had Cristiano Ronaldo in his back pocket. Yeah. From a fan's point of view as well, I think the main thing was he was just the way he was sort of, his book was sort of styled.
Yeah, I understand.
And things like that. Just of interest, has he ever sort of talked to you about his move or sort of expressed regret at leaving Arsenal? I know he's phenomenally successful at Chelsea, but from an Arsenal point of view, an Arsenal fan, I mean, I was gutted he left.
No.
to answer it bluntly,
I've never brought it
up.
No,
fair enough.
I've been in his company a few times doing England games and stuff like that, and I was just like, do you know what? I don't really care. So I'm not going to ask him a question if I don't really want to know the answer. So I just, based on the football and you know, fans obviously it's different for fans, and you don't know the ins and outs, you don't know all the stuff, and whether you read it in a book, you'll always have your own, you've already made your mind up, so you read it and you go, oh, no, that's not true, or da-da. So sit down with him and actually, in order to get the full answer, is you need to sit down with him, and you need to sit down with Arsenal and the club and work out who's telling the truth and who's not, and where the crossover is and the misunderstanding and all of that lot, and then you'll find out. But no one's ever going to do that. So it's all, if you listen to Ashley's story on his own, you'll make your mind up. If you listen to the club on their own, they'll say, no, that's not how it happened, it was like this. So you'll never get to the bottom of it unless you get them both in a room, and who's got time to do that? Who cares?
Yeah, fair enough. That's a fair answer.
No, sorry, I don't
No, that's interesting. That's an absolutely fair point. Just in terms of the sort of culture at Arsenal at the moment, Arteta, and prior to that, to be fair, you know, there's players like Edu there, Freddie's there, obviously. Arteta's a former Arsenal man. You've got Per Mertesacker, I should say, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, that former players bringing back into the fold, that's a good thing, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always a big fan of that. I think there's invaluable things that ex-players who've been there, done it, trod the boards, know the ropes of the club, know the ins and outs of it, knows, and I hate this word, but it's kind of appropriate now, the kind of DNA of it, of the club, and know the essence of the smells. And but I'm a big fan of those people being around. They have to have something to offer. They can't just be strolling around sort of, you know, saying hello and reading the paper in the corner. You've got to be able to offer something, whether it's a coach or an ambassadorial role or a mentor or something. I think there can be more. I always think there should be more mentors in the game, not necessarily coaches. That's for the training pitch, but I do believe that the young players at these clubs are all the big. But no, any club. It doesn't have to be a big club, but my club is one of the biggest in the world, and I do believe that the essence of what I believe the club's all about and there's lots of players like me who feel the same. That passing that on. Not, as I said, not necessarily on the training pitch because I'm not a coach, but there's got to be I think there should be more mentoring with these young players and actually teach them what the shirt is that they're putting on and what it means. And the trouble with progress in the football world is that it's kind of always moving on to the next fast big thing, the next, and it's money driven, and so a lot of the sticky stuff gets sort of lost, and when I say the sticky, it's the stuff that the little traditions over the years that have been slowly eroding away. The sleeve thing I've talked about before, and that's gone. And I was speaking to the kit man the other week, and he said, because since they changed kit, because I said, is it still a thing now that we've gone back to the captain picking short or long sleeves? And he goes, they're all short now. And I went, so there's no long sleeve options? He said, no, they don't make one. So Puma had an option, and then Adidas don't wait, or Puma didn't, and Adidas have said they'll do one, but they've gone, no, do you know what? It's easier just to have short, and then because a lot of them wear the white under armour, whatever it's called, the under, so it looks like a long. But they're all short sleeve shirts, and I was like, I was disgusted. I was sitting there, and I was going, I can't be right. Short, because that's another one gone. No, it's gone. It'll never be back ever. Yeah. So there's not like in 5 years' time a new manager's going to come in and go, because he'll have forgotten about it. Yeah. So it won't be a thing anymore. And so all those years that it's been a thing, all of a sudden it's not a thing. And so little things like that. So if I'm talking to a young lad about stuff like that now, he's probably looking at me going, oh, fuddy-duddy, what difference does it make? Because it's been too long gone, if you know what I mean. It's not a thing, so it's now disappeared. So Arsene, he was quite big on that sort of stuff, and even some of the things sort of drifted away towards the end with him, and then you get Unai Emery coming in. I don't know him from Adam, so I don't know. He seemed like he had enough on his plate without worrying about whether they've got a short sleeve but that's the point. It is marginal gains. It's those little things that make the club special, and I think it's really important that somebody's banging a drum for stuff like that. And so I will never ever stop talking about that stuff, because if you don't, and I don't care if people go, but it's now. It's it's a new era. New doesn't make it better. It just makes it new. There's a lot of good things, but there's some stuff in the past that still should be a thing. And you still walk in at the Emirates and the big badge, and you're forced as an away team to walk past the decades of us winning stuff. So that's a good thing, because that's still a thing. You're making people look at your historical winning past, little things like that. But I'm kind of clinging on to the last few little things.
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, I actually love the fact that you're sort of. That means something to you, basically. That's tremendous, basically. Just in terms of sort of, I must admit, I was surprised when, whoever was in charge at the time didn't bring people of the calibre of yourself and Tony Adams and maybe Sol Campbell and a few others back.
Sol Campbell can't come back. I know he's an Invincible, but he's Tottenham, so I'm sorry he can't come back.
Blimey.
I won't let that go in.
No,
I love Sol to bits, but he's not a gunner as far as I.
Did you just give him loads of stick then? Did you?
Yeah. What are you doing in here, Kev? Come on. I was only there a season with him, and he had a really bad injury when he signed, didn't he? He didn't play, and he was like really overweight, and he was struggling and I went, I'm glad you're injured, because you can't play in my team. And he was like, we had a laugh about it, but I'm only joking, Sol. Not really. But anyway, go on. Who else did you say?
Yeah. Obviously Tony and I know Martin Cohen was brought back for a little bit, but did you ever think, I'd like to be back at Arsenal talking to the youngsters or mentoring them?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a really brilliant life. In the media and commentating and doing all that. I love my job. It's brilliant. But there are some days I wake up and I go, I don't mind popping in. And I mean, I don't know anybody down. I don't know the players now. But there is an element of sometimes I could. And I did a bit of mentoring for a couple of players and I really enjoyed it. But then, they kind of got injured. It wasn't my fault. And but I really enjoy that side of things, and it's not so much, as I said, on the training pitch, but I love sitting in front of a computer and going through little bits of, which is what I do for my job, but little bits of thing. But it's a lot more satisfaction if you can show something and go, what do you think? What were you thinking there? Well, maybe you want to think this, and and then them going away, and you see a bit of it on a Saturday. So yeah, and that's probably my fault that I haven't pushed that a little bit more. And certainly as far as the club's concerned, when you players that you mentioned not being there anymore, there's been offers for certain players, without going into names and everything, to go back, not from the club but from the players, to say, well, I'm available. Or maybe that's the wrong way of going about it, I don't know, but I could do some ambassadorial role for the club, and I do some tours, and I love going back and sharing stories, and but there's something a bit kind of special talking to players about the club that kind of, hopefully they still get it.
Yeah.
And that's up to the trouble is now, so the senior players, the David Luiz and the senior players in the dressing room, but I don't know him, but he's only been there 5 minutes. Why is he going to be banging on about short sleeve, long sleeve? It's kind of, it's got to be in your blood to be like that, and there's not many of them around now. They're all gone off and doing their own thing. So.
Yeah. Can I just ask? I mean, you have to say no if you want, but who were the players you were mentoring? Yeah, cheers, Lee.
No, it's not. I don't want to say.
No, fair enough. We'll move on from there. Obviously, we talked about Bournemouth briefly. How important is the FA Cup to you, and how important should the FA Cup be to Mikel Arteta?
Yeah, well, I can't answer the second one because I'm not a manager of a big club, with all the headaches of injuries and fixture congestion, etc. So, it'd be wrong of me saying he should be doing this, should be doing that. It's got nothing to do with me. So whatever he does is right for the team as far as I'm concerned. And if he wants, it's like Klopp, if he wants to put the kids out, and it does that stuff doesn't bother me. But the cup, and whether it gets diluted because these teams or whoever's leaving their first team players out, it's just the way it is. But the actual trophy at the end of it, and we saw even last night, Villa and Everton, Leicester. I mean, getting to the cup final was everything to them. It was like a proper League Cup semi-final. Yeah. It was like the old days. It was fantastic. So but the FA Cup's everything to me. It's like, yes, the league is the most important thing and it's the bigger test and the bigger indication of how good a side you are, because you win 6 games, you win the FA Cup. So, but there's still a difficulty about winning it, and a brilliance about the drama and the passion and all of that, and the romance of the cup. It has been diluted, but it's still always be. I think I've tweeted the other day about I just love the FA Cup. I just love the prospect of going out at Wembley and picking it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about 93. I mean, Arsenal played 5 times at Wembley in the space of that spring. Yeah. I was at all of them in 98 for obviously the Newcastle game as well. What are your memories of those sort of games, briefly?
It's just, with cup finals, you don't, if you get into a cup final as a player, if you look at all the players that have played league football, played for professional clubs over the years, and then put a list of who's won the cup, the list is very small compared to all these players. I managed to play, I won it 3 times. It was like, how amazing is that? Just to get to a final, and then to win it and get you walking up them steps the first time. I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to touch the FA, because you obviously never touch it before, never get any close to it. To actually get your hands on it and be standing next to your buddy who's dripping in sweat and blood and it's just amazing. It's an amazing thing, and every player should. I would love to be able to share that moment with lots of my ex-teammates that didn't play in the final or didn't get there. Even players I don't know, just to give them a little bit and go, it's brilliant. It always looks brilliant, but when you're actually doing it, it's kind of like it's overwhelming, really.
Yeah. I mean, what was your favourite final? What was your favourite memory of the cup final for
well, obviously the Sheffield Wednesday one was probably the worst final in the history of the FA Cup, followed closely by the replay. It was terrible. I just remember during the game going, "This is not how it's supposed to be. It's a really bad game." But you don't really matter. You don't really. I mean, the end of that game was just sensational with with the header and the smashed nose and all that lot. But I think I did enjoy the. I didn't enjoy the Chelsea the final because I didn't get on. I got a medal. It's one of them. I just threw it in the cupboard somewhere because unless you play, it doesn't really sub at final. I couldn't believe he didn't put me on. I was so upset. I kept walking in front of the dugout looking at Arsene going, hello,
what was your
I'm
reaction
retiring.
when he told you?
Well, I knew I wasn't playing because Lauren was.
Yeah.
I'd only played about 18, 19 games that season because I was my last season, 2002. I was retiring, so. Yeah. But I was like, I'm retiring. I'm never going to be here again. Get me on. And he was like, kept going, get out of the way. I've got cup final to win. But I made up for it with the celebration behind when the goals were going in.
Absolutely.
So I'm probably more famous for that celebration than actually anything else.
That was a day and a half.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But Newcastle game, I enjoyed that. It was sunny, proper FA Cup day, never in danger of losing it. Yeah. Loved Alan Shearer's face when he didn't win the cup again, all of that sort of stuff. So I really enjoyed the Newcastle game. We couldn't lose that game. We were so dominant. It was like, well, how many are we going to win by? Yeah. And Nicholas was unplayable that season, and Mark Overmars. It was just that was enjoyable because you don't really enjoy if it's tight and you think you can't lose the final because it was almost like as soon as 5 minutes ago, I was like, well, we can't lose, so let's just enjoy it.
Yeah. Just out of interest, do you ever sort of raise it with Alan Shearer when you see him on a circuit or anything?
Oh, I'm always mentioning it, yeah. FA Cup, no, you haven't. Have you won it? No, you haven't. 3, I've just got 3. Because he obviously won the league with Blackburn, so the FA Cup, he didn't get that. Maybe he's watching again. It's just 3, yeah. 3. Although I kind of 2, because the Chelsea one I didn't really play in, so all right, 3, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lee. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, as ever. You're an absolute legend and a top bloke as well, so thank you very much.
My pleasure,
Cheers,
my friend.
Cheers, mate.
Anytime.
Brilliant. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think about the interview. Obviously, Lee's an absolute legend. Share your memories with Lee of his Arsenal career as well. Like, comment, share, and many thanks for watching. And obviously, if you're at a game or you come across us online, buy the Gooner Fanzine itself as well. So thanks very much. Cheers.